Welcome to the Build with Boundaries podcast. My name is Mahnaz, and this podcast is for mums who want to carve out time so that you can work in ways that work for you, your life, your family, and of course your business. Together, we will discover why you are not prioritising your business and the actions that you can take so you can live an intentional, productive, and fulfilled life without mum guilt. So let's dive in to today's episode.
Welcome to episode 66. When your capacity needs attention. This is such an interesting topic, and I have a lot to say on capacity. So hopefully I will not ramble on too much and the episode will still be short and helpful for you. So I want to ask you a question. Do you feel like you are at a capacity level that is manageable, or is verging on that overloaded? If it's feeling like it's slightly overloaded, you are going to definitely be feeling way more stressed and distracted. And it's so important for us to assess where we are in terms of our capacity, because as mums, as caregivers, as nurturers, always there for everybody around us. But what happens when we're not looking at our capacity levels? This is real life for a mum, right? Things will happen and we just have to manage. So here are some things that you might be doing or saying, and just notice, what actually resonates with you. You might be unnecessarily adding to your load. You might be having so many things there that you're spreading yourself really thinly. So you almost feel like you're not doing anything very well. And there's always this underlying feeling that, I've got to manage everything. Anything that's thrown at me, I'm the problem solver of the household. I am the person that people speak to when there's an issue. This can then almost drive us to push harder because we feel like, well, we're letting people down. We have to be there for others. And we have to do all the work that we really want to do, right? Because after all, if we're running a business, we know we have to put time into that as well. And another thing is, as we're going through all of this, we're also blaming ourselves for not getting things right. I mean, it's human nature, isn't it, to learn from experiences. So we can't get it right until we have some sort of experience. And if we haven't done something before, we wouldn't know until we try. And another massive thing that happens is that we end up at the bottom of our own priority list. And that's only if we've ever made it there on the first place, because there might be lots and lots of other things there that keep kind of staying at the top of that list. And we never really get to where it's time for us. So overall, what we're doing is we are adding more things onto our plate, and we already have all these spinning plates. So it can feel quite dizzy, right? It can feel like there's a lot going on. And when we're not able to give ourselves some time as well, then that's where it becomes even more difficult to manage. And that overloaded feeling kind of goes into that overwhelm, because everything just feels so hard that it's actually easier to, I don't even want to think about it. That's the easiest thing to do. And then we just, it leads to other things. Obviously, if we're going to avoid doing things, we'll end up procrastinating over them because we think about them so much that we've made them into this bigger thing than it probably is. And all of this is to do with habits and things that we are doing, things that where we're saying yes to everybody, where we don't have enough boundaries in our life. This is in our business as well, though, because, everything that's happening outside our business can be reflected in our business. And I think that this is like such an important thing to give a moment to, because being aware and just being self-aware of what's going on is like, it's just so important for mums, because you constantly feel like you're doing this juggling act, and you don't want to feel like that. You don't want to feel like you are overloaded and at full capacity. So I shared an analogy recently, and I'm loving these analogies. I feel like it resonated so much with me, and it just came to me. When we think about capacity, what if we think about that as filling our bath up with water? We're running a bath, so we put the taps on. And what are we going to do? We're going to turn the tap off when it gets to particular capacity. So think about that bath as being your capacity. Because if we don't turn the tap off where it's at that kind of optimal level, what's going to happen when we step into the bath? If we've overloaded it, we're just going to have a mess everywhere. The water's going to be spilled out. And this is what's happening to us on a daily basis. We're overloading things and we are keeping that tap running. And we are not reaching out to turn the tap off before we start doing other things. And all that means is we're just in this top tier, if you like, of the capacity all times. And it is so hard. It is so exhausting to work that way and to live that way. But ultimately, we need something to change, right? Because we need to be more aware of our capacity levels. So if there's only one thing you take away from here, remember that bathtub and assess yourself. Where am I on that scale? And how am I feeling in terms of my capacity? Because when you keep on letting that water trickle in, no matter how hard we work, we might not be able to take that water back out of the bath quick enough. And I think this becomes that firefighting, because we just feel like we're spreading ourselves and we're reacting to everything that's happening to us rather than being in charge. And when we're in charge of our life, we are coming from an empowered state. We have choice. We have a choice. We have habits. We have boundaries. We have an empowered mental state of what is realistic and what's not. And we're able to understand what our levels are and really work with our strengths more and more, rather than feeling that drain all the time. Because it is exhausting working that way. And in order for anything to change, that awareness piece has to be there, just understanding that we don't let it go from feeling overloaded to getting into overwhelm. Because I feel like there is a space there. And if we recognize it, we prevent ourselves from going too far. And none of us want to get into that overwhelm, feeling like we're just burnt out and we just can't do anything. That's not fair on ourselves, and it's not fair on our family. It's not fair on anything that we are so dedicated to. And we don't want to operate that way. So something really needs to change here. Before we can even look at changing things, we need to just recognize where we're at. And I think having that check-in with ourselves, where am I on the capacity scale? Simply asking ourselves that, even when we're not sure. And the more we do that, the more we can see things for ourselves. And just at the very minimum, we prevent ourselves from going deeper into that overwhelm. And we're turning the taps off effectively. By doing that, we're saying no more, right? I have to look after myself. because caring about our capacity is actually looking after ourselves. That may be, a form of self-care ultimately, because once we give ourselves permission and time and space to ask ourselves that, we can then use that information. We can check in to see where we are on the scale and then assess what it is that we need. So I hope this episode has been helpful. I think looking at things from different perspectives and hearing, thinking about your own life as you probably listen to this, probably got those moments where you feel like you know what's causing you issues. And a great exercise that I have is the Boundary Clock Worksheet. I think that would be amazing, an amazing next step for you. If you're listening to this and you haven't done the Boundary Clock, then check it out in the show notes and YouTube podcast description and download it for free. It's an exercise that you can look at your own business in a very holistic way. And when you look at it in a holistic way, then that's when you are looking and working on you. Like it's not some standard formula that you need to do this so that you can get your boundaries in line. It's very much you doing that hard work. And it's so important for us to recognize where we're at before we can do anything. And this boundary clock gives you that visual. And I'm quite visual, and I know I've had great feedback so far and amazing insights just by doing this exercise. So don't think that just because something is free, it doesn't have value. This has been so helpful, and that's why I have made sure that I put in time to create it for you. Check that out, and I will see you in the next episode.